justice. Abdu'l-Baha's love in no way obscured his sense of justice. On the contrary, it heightened his awareness. Had not Baha'u'llah taught him well that the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice? The Master himself, speaking of justice, declared that its operation must be carried out in all classes, from the highest to the lowest. Justice must be sacred, and the rights of all the people must be considered. Desire for others only that which you desire for yourselves. Thomas Breakwell, the first English believer, went to the prison city of Akka as a pilgrim. In conversation with the Master, he described his position in the cotton mills of the South in the United States. Breakwell told Abdu'l-Baha that the mills were run on child labor. Then the Master looked at him gravely and sadly for a while and said, "Cable your resignation." With great relief, Breakwell hastened to obey him. Economic justice, even in small matters, was important to the Master. Once in Egypt, Abdu'l-Baha obtained a carriage in order that he might offer a ride to an important pasha, who was to be his luncheon guest. When they reached their destination, the driver asked an exorbitant fee. The Master was fully aware of this and refused to pay the full amount. The driver, big and rough, grabbed his sash and jerked him back and forth, demanding his unfair price. Abdu'l-Baha remained firm, and the man eventually let go. The Master paid what he actually owed him and informed him that had he been honest, he would have received a handsome tip instead of only the fare. He then walked away. Shoghi Effendi, his grandson, was present when this happened. He later admitted to being very embarrassed that this should have happened in front of the Pasha. Abdu'l-Baha, on the other hand, was evidently not at all upset, but simply determined not to be cheated. Equality. In the 20th century, much is being said and written about the importance of human rights. But already in 1875, Abdu'l-Baha had written, "Have regard for the rights of others." His father's faith proclaimed the oneness of all mankind, the abolition of prejudices, the equality of men and women. While Abdu'l-Baha was living in a Paris hotel, among those who often came to see him was a poor black man. He was not a Baha'i, but he loved the Master very much. One day when he came to visit, someone told him that the management did not like to have him, a poor black man, come because it was not consistent with the standards of the hotel. The poor man went away. When Abdu'l-Baha learned of this, he sent for the man responsible. He told him that he must find his friend. He was not happy that he should have been turned away. Abdu'l-Baha said, "I did not come to see expensive hotels or furnishings, but to meet my friends. I did not come to Paris to conform to the customs of Paris, but to establish the standard of Baha'u'llah." On a certain occasion in America, Abdu'l-Baha announced that he wished to give a unity feast for the friends. The committee arranging for the affair had taken it to one of the city's most exclusive hotels, famed for its color bar. The colored friends, troubled by the prospect of insults and discriminatory treatment, decided not to attend. When Abdu'l-Baha learned of this, he insisted that all the friends should attend. The banquet was held with all the friends, white and colored, seated side by side, in great happiness and without one unpleasant incident. In late May 1912, in New York, Abdu'l-Baha was evicted from his hotel because, as Mahmoud noted, of the coming and going of diverse people and the additional labors and troubles for the staff, and the incessant inquiries directed to the hotel management. But, Mahmoud continued, when the people of the hotel saw his great kindness and favor at the time of his departure, they were ashamed of their conduct and begged him to stay longer, but he would not accept. The master's every act was meaningful. On one auspicious occasion in Washington, D.C., he demonstrated what justice and love can do. The chargé d'affaires of the Persian legation in the city and his wife had arranged a luncheon in his honor. Their guest list included members of the social and political life in the capital, as well as a number of Baha'is. Louis Gregory, a cultivated gentleman and employee in the government, he later became the first black hand of the cause, had been invited to visit the master. He was surprised at the time scheduled for a visit, as he knew of the luncheon plans, but naturally he arrived on time. Their conference seemed to go on, as if indeed the master might be prolonging it deliberately. Eventually, the butler announced that luncheon was being served. Abdu'l-Baha led the way, the invited guests following closely behind. Mr. Gregory was perplexed. Should he leave or wait for Abdu'l-Baha to return? The guests were seated when suddenly the honored guest rose, looked around, and then asked in English, "Where is my friend, Mr. Gregory?" adding, "My friend, Mr. Gregory, must lunch with me." It just so happened that Louis Gregory had not been on the luncheon list, so naturally he had remained behind. Now, the chargé d'affaires hastened after him. The master rearranged the place setting at his right, the seat of honor, of course, ignoring utterly the delicate laws of protocol. And the luncheon started only after Mr. Gregory had been seated. Then, in a most natural manner, as if nothing at all unusual had happened in the capital that day in 1912, with tact and humor, the master electrified the already startled guests by talking about the unity of mankind. Louis Gregory was blessed with going on pilgrimage. Towards its end, Abdu'l-Baha summoned Louis Gregory and Louisa Matthew, a white English pilgrim. He questioned them and, to their surprise, expressed the wish that they should join their lives together. In deference to his wishes, they were married, and he sent them forth as a symbol of the spiritual unity, cooperation, dignity in relationships, and service he desired for the races of mankind. That marriage presented many challenges. It brought all the obstacles to understanding and amity, and often cruel pressures. But it endured because the two souls it joined were ever guided and protected by a love beyond themselves and the pressures of the world. Theirs was a demonstration of the love which is prompted by the knowledge of God and reflected in the soul. They saw in each other the beauty of God, and, clinging to this, they were sustained throughout the trials, the accidental conditions of life, and the changes and chances of human experience. Abdu'l-Baha's sense of justice and equality also embraced the quality of relationship between men and women. He once smilingly turned to the ladies in a group of listeners in America and said that, in Europe and America, many men worked very hard so that their wives could have luxuries. He related, again with a smile, the story of a husband and wife who once visited him. Some dust had settled on the wife's shoes, and she told her husband, peremptorily, to wipe it off, which he dutifully did. Did she do the same for her husband? Abdu'l-Baha had queried. No, had been the reply. She cleaned his clothes. But that was not equality, Abdu'l-Baha had remarked. Now, ladies, Abdu'l-Baha said, you must sometimes stand up for the rights of men. It was all said with good humor, but the lesson was plain. Moderation in all things.